Hey, this is Doug Wilkerson with Central Christian Center here in Joplin, Missouri, and Saturday Night Live Life Recovery Ministry, also here at the church. Of course, we have church on Sunday, Sunday morning, Sunday night, and also we have Saturday Night Live on Saturday night. That's the reason why we call it Saturday Night Live. Meeting starts at 7 on Saturday night here at the church, right off the alley. In the basement of the fellowship hall. So we also video that meeting as we do the church. We go live on both the church and on Saturday Night Live, and encouraging word from Doug. Just a little note, I've started off this year, and this is the first Thursday of the new year, 2023, and we are taking communion. We're taking communion every day, and Chris Jones has been doing a live video, and to help folks that would be interested in being led in that communion at 8 o'clock every night. It may be a little earlier on. I don't know what he's going to do on Saturday night. So anyway, I guess we probably need to talk about that. So, anyway, communion is very powerful. We had 3 weeks of teaching. Chris taught on a week. Nathan Jones taught on a week, and I also taught on a week. That is also on our YouTube and Facebook sites also. And we're believing that God has given us this direction to help us to come into a new year in a better way and a more powerful way, a better connected way, a greater understanding, more healing, better relationship, because this covenant that he established with communion, Jesus said that it was a new covenant. Anyway, we're not going to talk about communion today. We're going to be talking about was it a dog or was it a goat? That's the question. And we're going to be talking about perception. We're talking about incorrect perception. We're talking about inaccurate perception, and we're talking about incomplete perception. Of course, then you'd have an accurate perception and a complete perception. So we're going to be talking about perception. We've been talking about focus, and focus kind of couples in with perception here. And our perspective is so important because oftentimes we get messed up because we have a perception that is incorrect, and to be properly aligned with ourselves, we have to, because we have you ever argued with yourself? I would say we all have. And there's many years ago, I used to say way more than I do now. I mean, there are times I don't even agree with myself. But that's the way we are. We're an interesting human being, and God has made us, and we are unique, and we are wonderful, and we are, can I say, complicated. So anyway, perspective. Today we're going to be talking about perspective. Have you ever heard this statement? Feelings are not facts. Have you ever heard that statement? Feelings are not facts. That's so important to be aware of. Now, we're not saying that feelings are nothing, okay? Feelings are something, okay? But they're not everything. Now, a lot of people run their entire life off of feelings, and they would be first to say that those feelings have ran them into a ditch. But feelings are important, okay? They're important, but they're not a fact. The feelings are there for a reason, to help us, to give us intuitive insight, to be able to navigate life, to explore why the feelings, okay? And we need to explore those feelings so that we understand why they're there. They are a signal to us to try to help us. And if we're not careful, they can take us down a wrong road. That's the reason why we need to research them. We need to look at them. It's information. It's not a fact. Okay. So anyway, so we're talking primarily here about our emotional. Most people call emotions feelings, and so, but we're talking about that emotional aspect of our makeup, our being. Okay. So that's what we're going to be talking about perspective today. So I got a little story here for you. This came out of India, an ancient story. It's a parable, it says, a parable of 6 blind men and the elephant. I thought it was pretty interesting. But there was this group of men, blind men. They were talking about this animal that had come to their city that they weren't familiar with, and they didn't know what it looked like. And because they only can have an understanding of things by touching it, because they've been blind their whole life, so they have to get a sense of it that way. So they figured that they were very capable to understand this new animal if they could just get downtown to where the elephant was and put their hands on it. And so these 6 blind men made their way downtown, down into the city, and they found this elephant, and they surrounded it, and they started touching it and feeling the elephant to figure out how it looked. And so, being curious, they started handling it. And the first man that touched the elephant touched its trunk, and he said, "I know what an elephant is. An elephant is a big, thick snake. That's an elephant." Another one touched its ear and said, "Oh, I know what an elephant is. It is a large fan." Okay. Another came up and touched its leg. He says, "I know what an elephant is. It is a big pillar like a trunk of a tree." And the next person touched the tail and says, "No, that an elephant is a rope, like a rope, a big, thick rope." And then the last man says, "Oh, I know what an elephant is. He touched the tusk and he said that it is a smooth, sharp, spear-like, hard thing. That's what an elephant is." And they just were touching it real quick and getting their perception, and somebody came up and scurried them away because they were afraid these blind guys were going to get hurt or harmed. And so they moved them over to a shady area and told them to wait here. And as they were talking about their perceptions, they started arguing because each one thought they knew what an elephant was shaped like, and they were convinced their perspective was the total perspective of an elephant. Now we know, because we know what an elephant is, that they just had one part, but they didn't know that, and they were arguing and fighting, and a man came along and said, Gentlemen, what are you arguing about?" And they said, "Well, we know we disagree on a shape of an elephant." And they were telling him, "Well, like a fan and a tree trunk and a sharp spear and a wall." I think I may have left that out. One touched the side of the elephant, and he described it as a wall, and a great wall. And he said, "Well, if you put all those together, you'll get closer to knowing what the shape of an elephant is." And so, they were all correct in their perception, but their perception was limited. It wasn't complete. It was inaccurate. Okay, and so we could say that they were right, but they were also wrong because it wasn't the a complete perspective of what an elephant was. And we know that because we've seen an elephant, right? And we know what an elephant looks like. But, but they were arguing about themselves. But see, how many things in our life do we take a quick snapshot and we figure we know the entirety of what's going on? It's kind of like we take one picture out of a movie, an hour or two movie, and we figure we know what the whole thing is, which is not possible. Sometimes we do that with our own life. We think that our whole life is what we see right this moment, but it's just one picture out of the movie of our life. There's more to come. And what is here now will be passing on. Okay, so perspective. I want to broaden your perspective. I want you to seek for more information to be able to understand, to have a better perception of of everything, whether it's your life or your job or this world. So anyway, it's tough, but if we understand that we need to look for more, and that's the reason why, because I am a truth seeker, and I believe in looking for truth and digging down for truth and getting in Bible study or whatever. I look for many voices on a particular topic to help to bring understanding and to have verification of that information to help me to grasp a fuller perception and to have an accurate truth, because I know that accurate truth is so important in communication with people, even with myself. Okay, because early in my earlier life, I realized that I believed a lot of lies. I didn't know they were lies because I believed them. But I realized that by investigating and challenging my beliefs, I realized, hey, I knew way down deep inside that they were not true, and that if I really wanted my life to be better, I had to be focused on the truth, because the truth will set you free, make you free. It makes your life better, because if you live on a lie, it's destructive. That doesn't mean the truth is all easy. It's better than a lie. Okay, so many years ago, I read a book by Dr. Stephen Covey. It was The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And this one, all the principles are good, and I've taught on that book multiple times. But this one principle, and it was his 5th habit, it says, seek first to understand, and then you'll be understood. So the first principle is to seek to understand. Instead of saying, I know, say, I want to know, and seek to understand, because everybody's perception can teach you, okay, can help you. I say that everybody's my teacher, okay. In fact, I say the little dictators and tyrants in my life are my best teachers, because they can put their fingers right on my sensitive spots and help me to understand where it is, identify it, so that I can deal with it and grow through it. So seek first to understand in communication, in marriage, in work. I remember one time when I was working in a factory type job. I was in charge of the plant maintenance and the vehicle maintenance, and they were starting to. Well, that was later on, but anyway, I remember the owner wanted something done, and he told me what he wanted, and he kind of he kind of drew it out on the wall with his finger, imaginary wise, and I did exactly what he wanted me to do. And I went back to him, and he said, "That's nothing like I want." And I realized that day I had to seek for clarity. I had to seek for understanding. I needed it to be put on paper, so that I could communicate back to him what it was that he had in his own mind. And he was a very smart, brilliant guy, but I needed to see the world through his eyes so that I could hit those targets. I hit a target, but it wasn't his target. So what good was that? So it was a lesson I learned, and this was back in the early '70s. And so we need to gain that perspective, and that's the reason why it's so important to line ourselves up with God's perspective. And I'll be sharing some scriptures on that here in a moment. I want to tell another story first, though. This is an actual experience that took place with my wife and I, Linda, and this was back in we got married in 1973, so this year will be our 50th year. She's just about got me broke in good now. And so we have, we were driving home, and we were going down this road, and it was back when just about everything was 70 miles an hour unless you were inside of a residential area, and we were zipping down this road, and I looked over at this house that was up on a hill, and I saw something that was kind of unusual to me. At the end of this house, there was a dog house, and in front of this dog house was a big black goat that was chained in front of that dog house so that he'd have some shelter and keep him restrained. And I thought, well, that's kind of unusual. And we was just driving on down the road, and I just glanced over there and saw it. And I turned to Linda. I said, "Did you see that goat back there chained up in front of that dog house?" And she says, "No, I didn't see a goat. I saw a dog back there chained up in front of a dog house, but not a goat." Now I said, it was a goat, a big black goat, chained up right in front of the doghouse at the end of the house. And she said, "Yeah, I saw a doghouse at the end of the house with a dog chained up, a big black dog." And I said, "Linda, I know a goat when I see one." And she says, "Yes, but I know dogs when I see one," which I knew that. And so I decided I wasn't going to argue with her. So I just turned around, had to slow down, turned around, went back, and I pulled up in front of this house. It was up on the hill, and I pointed right across in front of her. And I said, "Right there, you see that goat in front of that doghouse at the end of that house, right there?" She says, "Well, I see down at the other end of this house a dog chained in front of that doghouse." So I learned something that day. Our perceptions were correct, but in essence, they were incomplete because she saw one end of the house and I saw the other end of the house. And we could have very easily, well, we did argue a little bit about it, just a little bit. I already learned I better stop right there. So anyway, now all these years later, and that was probably 45 years ago, sometimes when it's a perspective issue or how we see things, one of us will say, "Well, is it a dog or is it a goat?" And that what that does for us is reminds us that there's more to the picture, okay, than what we see. Oftentimes I have some of the guys that work for me send me pictures of a problem they want me to look at, but it's a close-up view, and I don't have a perspective of even where it is. I may not even know. I don't know. It's so tight. I can't see it. And I mean, I see the picture, but I can't grasp because I don't have a big enough perspective. And so, that's what we're talking about here. Oftentimes, I've had to back up in life, in situations, in problems, and issues, and dealing with people. Sometimes I have to back up to get a wider view, to get a bigger perspective. Some people say like a 5 mile, 10 mile perspective, 50,000 foot type perspective. Um, and so, anyway, that was the dog goat story. So it was a dog and it was a goat, but it wasn't a dog and it wasn't a goat. And we both were right and we both were wrong. And so that was then. Well, got a scripture for you. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord your God, plans of welfare and not evil, to give you a future and a hope." That's God's perspective for you. God's perspective for you. He has something that he wants to give you. And so, Einstein said that the most important decision we make is whether we live in a friendly or hostile universe. That's what Einstein said. That's the biggest decision we make. Are we living in a friendly or hostile universe? And then he went on to say, he says, for me, he said, there are so many things, this is Einstein saying, there's so many things that have to go right every day for this universe to exist, for this world to exist, for this life to exist, for our life to exist, in our bodies, in this world system. So many things that have to go right for things to exist. Yes, there are some things that go wrong, but in comparison, the good outweighs the bad. So he said, he's determined, far as for himself, he believed that this universe was friendly to humankind. And God is friendly to humankind, no matter what others have said. Yes, we've all had some bad things happen, but you stop and think about it. How many good things have happened? Okay. I had a person was telling me, well, I need to do some things in my life. I need to have some self-care. I need to take care of me. I need to keep me on the right path, but I don't have time. And I've heard that statement from many, and I've heard that statement from them several times. And I said, well, yeah, but you can find time to do those things that are destructive in your life. So you have time. So if you have time, if time's going to be taken up somewhere and you don't want to do that, won't you invest that time before you end up in a situation that will take a hold of you and drag you into a place you don't want to go and hold you for way longer than you want to be held and cost you more than you are really willing to pay, but yet you pay it anyway. You know what I mean? So we're talking about recovery. We're talking about mental, spiritual, physical, financial, life recovery. Okay, which is what we talk about on Saturday night, by the way. I want to close with this one scripture here. And this is Isaiah 55:8-9. This is the ESV version. It says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts. Neither, his thoughts are not our thoughts." Romans 12:2 says, "Be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Okay? Renewing of your mind. We need to change our thoughts. We need to align with him instead of trying to get everything to align with us, including God. That's not going to work. It's going to put us on the outside instead of on the inside. He said, my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are my ways your ways, declares the Lord. For as the heaven is higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts. Perspective. You know, maybe we ought to do a checkup on our perspective. Are you overly rigid? Could there be more to the story? Are there more pictures in that movie than one snapshot? Could there be more information, more evidence? Because everybody sees some things different. And if we gain their perspective, as Dr. Covey said, seek first to understand, then you'll be understood. That when I see what they see, then I can communicate my truth in their understanding, how they see it. And then hopefully they can understand what I see. Perspective. I hope this is a helpful to you. And I just want to say, hey, we'll have church here Sunday morning. Be good to see you. We'll be here on Saturday night. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May his face shine upon you and give you peace. Make healthy choices. Till next time, take care of yourself.